When it comes to grief, people will tell you to cry it out, to talk about it, to heal. Nobody tells you what it actually feels like to carry it alone while the world keeps moving like nothing happened. Me? I'm going to tell you what nobody told me and what actually helped. First and foremost, what is grief? Well, by the Oxford American Dictionary, grief means deep sorrow, especially that caused by someone's death. Now, if you've been blessed enough, you would have never have to experience grief by somebody that's close to you, one of your loved ones passing away. But if you have, do you understand those words and what I'm about to say completely? Grief is people say there's a negative connotation when it comes to grief. And yes, albeit that may be truth, but you will soon come to realize that grief can be transforming if you let it. But before we get to that point, I want to talk about what happens initially while you experience grief. What does grief actually do to a man? Grief changes you in ways that you would have never thought. At first, you don't feel it, you don't sense it, but it's there. It's already attached to you, like a parasite. But it doesn't affect you yet. It lingers and lingers and lingers and lingers. And it grows and it grows and it grows to a point to where whenever you burst, it may seem like it's all of a sudden, but it's not. Your behavior changes. The way you perceive things changes. The way you talk changes. The way you walk changes. The way you think about things and feel about things changes. Grief is a very daunting thing to go through. It's a very big thing to go through as well. I remember when, rest in peace to my great grandmother, she passed away. She had some health issues going on, but she was also just old. I remember that text that my mom texted me. I was a junior in high school. She texted me. I was in environmental science class. I was towards the back. I remember I was sitting by myself. There's a ringing on my phone. I pick my phone up. It's a text from my mom. My mom says, "Grandma just died." In that moment, the whole world froze. Everything froze. My hearing ceased. My heartbeat became louder. Albeit I was in a room surrounded by a dozen plus people, I was alone. I felt like I was snatched from the world and I entered this abyss. I was by myself. Mind you, that wasn't my last class period. I sat there and I sat. I tried to process something in a short amount of time, knowing that I couldn't do it, but I still tried because I had to be okay. Why? Because society teaches you that you can't cry about it. You can't show pain. You can't show weakness. You have to keep pushing forward. So I sat. And the funny part about it is, some time passes and I end up blaming myself. Why? Because I was supposed to go see her that weekend. We were supposed to go see her the previous weekend, but I ended up telling my mama it's okay because we don't really have time for it, so we can just move it forward to next weekend. But that weekend came and I was never able to talk to her or see her ever again. So I'm in my next class period and I'm trying to hold it together. But the thoughts of just blaming myself and blaming myself and blaming myself was piercing my heart and my mind and my soul. So I left school early and I went home. I got to my bed and that pain that I felt exploded. But There was no destruction for nobody else but me. I didn't hear, nobody else heard the explosion but me. I cried. I wallowed in my bed. My pillow felt the pressure of the tears. I cried and I cried and I cried and I blamed myself. It sucks. And then the funeral came. And I'm trying to be strong and I look towards my mother and she's crying. While I'm still trying to go through this grief myself. They say grief has stages. I didn't experience denial. I experienced discomfort. I experienced a senseless blaming. Because for some reason, as human beings, we always try to place blame and understanding and reasoning for it. Whereas simply, it just happens. Grief can tear somebody from the inside out. And that's what it did to me. I cried. I felt the pain. And that pain still never goes away. To anybody who's experienced grief, who has experienced it right now, trust me, I understand your pain. I do. And as a man, I understand the responsibility of still keeping it strong and keeping it together because everybody else has to go through it as well. Again, it ties back to the point, who's going to take care of me while I'm taking care of everybody else? I understand that feeling. Because I'm having to console my mother and take care of others while still going through it myself. I have to save face. I have to keep that presence of being a strong man, a stoic man, not being unbothered, but keeping it together long enough. That hurts worse. Because you should be able to experience those feelings and let those feelings out. But you feel like you can't. So you end up suffocating yourself. And that goes more into the destruction of grief. I understand what it does to a man physically. That weight sits in your chest as if it's being caved in. It's not metaphorical. It's a literal feeling. You feel like your chest is getting tighter. You feel like somebody is squeezing it and pressing it with pressure that you've never felt before. Your sleep changes. Now all of a sudden you can't get sleep. You're waking up multiple times in the middle of the night, covered in sweat, covered in tears. Your appetite changes. You don't want to eat. You look at food and it disgusts you because you disgust yourself. Why? Because you're blaming yourself. Your body is keeping score of what your mind is telling you. It's adding everything up. Fatigue and exhaustion weighs in, and you're doing mundane and simple tasks. What should be easy now becomes extremely hard to do. Mentally, it makes you question everything. Why? You know how a child always asks why? Even when they get their way, they just always ask why. That's the first thing that they run to because they're trying to understand it. Grief does that to a man. It turns you into a child again, and you're simply asking, why? Why? Why did it have to happen now? Why did it happen in the first place? Why am I going through it? Why me? It makes you question everything because instability has now entered your life in ways that you couldn't even imagine. You're used to instability in some sort of way or fashion, but this is different because it uproots your whole entire being. You become extremely aware. And honestly, not even aware. Sometimes your perspective is skewed as to what's important and what's not important. what was important right now is no longer important. The things that didn't matter, suddenly you're running to for comfort as a distraction. And your emotions are so irregulated. That feels off because they always say as a man, you need to have control of your emotions. You need to keep your emotions in check. But grief bypasses all those societal norms and those societal sayings and says, no, I'm here. And I know you have nothing to do about it. So here's what I'm going to make you experience. Anger shows up in ways you couldn't imagine, in ways that you thought you healed from and gotten through. You're angry at the world, angry at yourself. Because again, as a man, you have to protect and to provide. So you're like, why? Why couldn't I stop this? Why couldn't I see this happening? Why couldn't I foresee this? And then you get thinking, maybe if I would have saw it earlier, I could have done something. I could have done something. I should have done something. And of course, I would have done something. But that is not the case. That is far from the case. A lot of men don't even recognize grief when it first comes because it's sometimes disguised as rage. You're used to rage. A lot of men feel rage. A lot of men feel anger. But grief, sometimes grief disguises itself as rage, and you're not used to that. Grief has no timeline and no time frame of getting over it. Some people take weeks, years, sometimes decades. Some people never get over it. So you excommunicate yourself from everybody socially. Isolation feels safer than being around crowds of people. And even when you get to that point to where you are around people, you still feel isolated and alone. Trust me, I understand. Again, they say grief comes in stages. No, it ambushes you. And you never know what to expect, and you never know when it's supposed to come. And even when you think you may heal from it, boom, it's come again. Grief never goes away. That's what people have never told me. Grief never goes away. People say you'll get over it, you'll heal from it eventually. You know, time heals all wounds. But when it comes to your loved ones dying, that type of grief never goes away. Another societal norm that people say is men are supposed to grieve silently. Fuck that norm. Cry out to the heavens. Cry out to anybody who's willing to listen to you and give you a shoulder to lean on. Because I know you will do the same thing for them. And they know that. So please have somebody in your corner. Let the grief mean something. That's what I tell you. What actually helped me is embracing the grief, letting it mean something. Go through the rage, go through the sadness, go through the sorrow, go through the isolation, and don't feel bad. Don't feel bad for going through it. Because again, a lot of people say you have to strap it onto your back and keep it pushing. Sometimes it's good to take a stop. Look at yourself in the reflection of the mirror or the pond and let the tears flow. Understand that. Experience and go through it, please. And surround yourself with loved ones when you are ready. But also, that's a double-edged sword because you never may feel ready. So it's good to have somebody to force you into that space. Because sometimes love is what you need. And about love, grief, is love with nowhere to go. It's love that you can't hold on to anymore, but you feel it in these unusual ways, and that's why rage comes about. Again, I understand grief. No, I understand what grief does to people. I understand what grief did to me. And that's why I am telling you, a lot of those things that people say about grief, no, it's non-existent when it actually comes. And those of you who've been through grief know what I'm talking about. So, again, to anybody who's experienced grief right now, I'm not going to tell you you will get over it and you will heal from it. You don't. You don't get over it. You get stronger. Grief doesn't end. You just slowly learn how to build